And good afternoon, everyone. I am live. Welcome into my glorious hotel room here in Oklahoma City as the Indiana Pacers and Oklahoma City Thunder play tonight in a game seven. It's the seventh, rather, the 20th game seven in the history of the NBA Finals, and the first since 2016 when the road team won. And so Pacers will look to do the same here coming up tonight in Oklahoma City, and so much excitement for this game and what it all entails. I mean, today at breakfast downstairs here at my hotel, saw a number of Pacer fans ready to go. Several in Pacer jerseys, a couple in those T-shirts, those gold T-shirts that they give away during the home games. But it should be a good one here tonight. Everybody always asks, "Hey, how you feeling? What do you expect?" I think anybody would be lying to you if they had a good feel for what's to come tonight. I think you can go a variety of ways. First of all, I think the Pacers' power and superpower in this will be the coaching staff, will be Rick Carlisle and their big game experience and the success that they have had. I think they still have several tricks up their sleeve. I think they have several different things that they can turn to and utilize to their advantage here coming up in a game seven, something that you don't throw out all your bag of tricks until you need to. And the Pacers have never been desperate. The home team, though, has had more success in this series. The bench numbers will be most key coming up beyond the turnovers. Turnovers have been one telltale sign throughout the series, along with the bench points, because it was last game when the Thunder, at the end of three quarters, had just 6 points among their bench. At the same time, Obi Toppin had 15 points. So that was a stark contrast. And we saw Mark Daigneault, the head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder, just not even play his starters in game six, fourth quarter. Now it's been almost 72 hours or so since that game. We're obviously keeping tabs on Tyrese Halliburton and his health and how he's feeling. Yesterday, on Saturday at the team's practice, he continued to wear that gray calf sleeve on his right calf strain to try to help with that and with the compression and such and everything there. I expect for him to be out there. He wouldn't miss it. But again, there's no guarantees that he can still play those 23 minutes, that he could play 30 or whatever minutes workload that he would like. So that's why it's important for the Pacers to get off and have a strong first three quarters. If they want their best players out there, you want to maximize the time that Tyrese is out on the floor. By the way, how outrageous is it that there is a monster trade here on game seven? It couldn't have waited 2 days. It couldn't have waited until Tuesday when game sevens happened. You've had Monday to discuss and react, and for one team to be celebrated and the other team to talk about maybe what's to come next year and how they were so close but came up short in a decisive game seven. I think it's ridiculous, quite frankly, that there are trades completed and announced on game seven, on a game day. The last time we will have a meaningful basketball game in months. You're going to have to wait till late October until the start of the regular season. Let's hold off. I know in the NFL, Roger Goodell does not let this happen. No news, nothing. You keep the main thing, just like the players often talk about, the coaches refer to. These franchises should be doing the same thing as well, because today should be all about a celebration of the league. It should be a celebration of what the Thunder have done in this rising team. It should be about the Pacers, the consistent underdog who have overcome all the odds. For the seventh straight game in this NBA Finals series, they are the underdog. And yet, it's probably a 50-50 split if I walk down the streets and polled fans about how they're feeling about tonight's game, because both teams have had good success in this series. There's only been this game six was the most lopsided game of them all. But there's a variety of ways I could see this game seven going. But for one, I expect I expect the Pacers to continue with their successful defense that was enlightening there and impressive in game six, something I'm going to be writing about here after I get off from recording this podcast. I thought it was fantastic, the adjustments that the Pacers, led by Rick Carlisle and defensive coordinator Jenny Busick, made to change the pickup point, not pressure full court, not 94 feet, like they do more than anyone, like they do throughout much of the regular season, and certainly here into the playoffs. They backed it up to half court or even a little further, which did so many things. First of all, it allowed for Nembhard and others not to get so worn out. And when right now, when Tyrese is not 100%, not feeling completely himself and such, you need to maximize everywhere else. That's Andrew Nembhard. That's Aaron Nesmith, your top two defenders. If both of those can give them 15 points in a game 7, you got to like the Pacers' chances. But Nembhard's shooting has just been off, and he hadn't been quite the same offensive productions in the series. A lot of that due to what's being asked of him on the defensive end and picking up full court and staying with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and trying to make things as difficult as possible for the league's MVP. And I think he's done that quite well. It's just you want a balanced effort. So I expect to see more of that. You obviously will see some countermeasures from OKC, and talking to them about it yesterday, they weren't caught off guard or anything by it, even though their play suggested so. They said they've seen this. They saw it against Minnesota. They saw it against Denver, but they didn't solve it against the Pacers. And so what the Pacers really tried to do is keep them outside the paint, prevent them from getting downhill and racing and getting that wind-up start. You know how often, Pacers have the ball, maybe needing a basket with 10 seconds left in a quarter. They'll choose not to inbound it in the front court. They want to in the back court, so it gives Tyrese Halliburton a running start and gets him going downhill. That's exactly kind of what the Thunder have been able to do in terms of once they get the ball in the move. Obviously, they want to play with pace, but if you drop that point of pickup there after half court and there's a line of defenders and you make things difficult, it was far more difficult for them to get into their offense. And then things got stagnant. And then SGA was turning the ball over. And then they couldn't attack and then spray out for outside shots. And their shots have not been there from distance all series long. And so that's an area where the Pacers look to continue to have some success ultimately in that one. How about, by the way, thinking about the officials, no Scott Foster tonight. None. I'm very surprised by that. Mostly because NBA says he's consistently one of their top rated officials in the league. And so you would think the NBA in the biggest game of the year and the final game of the year would want its top 3 rated officials. Doesn't matter who they are, doesn't matter what games they have officiated. You would think that would go into it. But here's the thing. I like the fact that you remove that from the equation because social media was loud. The fact that Rick Carlisle, I think after game 2, had to come out or felt compelled enough to come out and support Foster, and after all the negativity that there had been out in the social media sphere and such, that's not a good thing for the game. You want tonight, much like you don't want trades to be talked about, you don't want officials talked about. It's best when you don't know their name. It's best when all we're doing is talking basketball. So definitely noteworthy, however, that no Scott Foster tonight in game 7. So he will have just done one of these NBA Finals games, despite being one of the top rated officials in the league. Now, again, I think one of the advantages for the Pacers coming into this game is the experience of their coaching staff, starting with Rick Carlisle. They also have several other former head coaches on their staff, with Jim Boylan, with Lloyd Pierce, with Jenny Busick. Mike Weiner knows Carlisle better than anyone and has been by his side for 15 plus years since they got started there in Dallas. So that's been an underrated thing and weapon for the Pacers, I believe, in this series, something I hope to get to in writing about this week, a win or loss, because each time in each series in this postseason, the Pacers have played the right chess piece. And that's really what it is. It's a chess move, trying to outthink your opponent. Asking TJ McConnell about that, a future head coach, by the way. And he was like, yeah, that's probably the best part about the playoff series, is to see these maneuvers and these teams try to out predict and out scheme and then just play harder than each other and have success from that standpoint. And so that's something we'll all be watching coming up in game 7. Which move do the Pacers pull out? Certainly they have a few more things in their bag, and probably the same is true for Mark Daigneault, the younger coach. He's just 40 years old and thriving with this Thunder team. They surely will be in the conversation over the next few years. They're going to have staying power. There's no reason to believe they are going anywhere. And I think the same is true for the Pacers for the next couple of years. They gave all their players not all. They gave most of their players contract extensions last summer, a half dozen players, starting with Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam. Their max contracts kicked in this year. So those go over for the next several years. Then you had Toppin and DJ McConnell, and Aaron Nesmith's new deal kicked in this year. Andrew Nemhard's new deal kicks in next year. And so the only guys that really need new deals, it starts with Miles Turner and goes from there. That's conversation for the offseason. But the point there being is this team can do this for the next couple of years. In fact, I expected a run potentially to the finals to be next year, to be after another run, maybe to the conference finals, certainly the semifinals this year, and then for them to build upon that and get to the finals. But look, much like this team as a whole, they are well ahead of what anybody had expected. And that's what makes this whole postseason so special. You need 16 wins to get an NBA championship. And the Thunder and the Pacers are sitting right there at 15. And they just need one more. One more, and they are a part of history forever. It's the 20th Game 7 in NBA Finals. That raises the stakes. And I thought it was interesting Saturday at media availability. Some of the players would acknowledge, yeah, this is different. And some of them wouldn't at all. Saying, yeah, it's just another game. I got to treat it just like any other. It's like, no. There's something special and unique and filled with pressure here. And I don't think the Pacers have much pressure. I don't think Rick Carlisle and his staff have much pressure going into this game at all. To me, it's all on the Thunder. They were the better team. They were the 68-win team. They were the team favored in every single one of these games. And they also had the best player in the series in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And right now, none of that has mattered because it's all even at 3 games apiece coming into Sunday's decisive game where both teams fighting for that elusive championship. And the cool thing is, Pacers, Thunder, no matter who wins, it'll be the first championship in NBA franchise history. I'm not counting the Thunder's previous history with Seattle. Yes, they moved, but just like here in Indianapolis, I don't think the Colts should count Baltimore Colts champion or, history and such other than like players. Obviously, players are part of it. But when you move, a lot of things change. And so the Thunder are a model of stability. The Pacers, too, have been a model of stability of how to run a franchise and how to build it up from inside out. And you got to hit on a couple of draft picks, but these smaller markets, you also have to make smart deals. And then you have to make smart extension type deals. And best of all, the thing that's worked out so well to the Pacers' benefit is their chemistry. It's their continuity. This is one of the most likable teams, one of the most together teams, probably to me up there with the 2013 team that I covered going all the way back. And so no surprise that team reached the Eastern Conference Finals. The only thing keeping them out of the finals was one quarter in Game 7 against the Miami Heat and mostly notably LeBron James, and one of the greatest players to all time. And that's why I look to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander tonight. If he's the player he wants to be and the player who he believes he is at this juncture, he's got to have a monster game for the Thunder. I mean, it's got to be a 40-point game. He's got to make the Pacers' heads spin, both literally on the court and trying to alter coverage and trying to slow him down. For him, it's nothing. We're not getting into legacy game or anything like that, but he's too far at the start of his career than he is the end, not even in his peak. But from the Thunder standpoint, you need a monster game from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Jalen Williams cannot be a minus 40 like he was in Game 6. I'm not a big plus-minus fan, but I know minus 40, that's significant enough to be worthy of a mention. If you're minus 12, you're plus 12. All right. Many different things can happen here within a flow of a game. And it's an unfair stat on a small sample size. But yeah, let's talk about what do the Pacers need to do? I think you need another solid game from Tyrese. And again, I'm talking 12 points, 6 assists, 1 turnover, just effective, productive. He does not need to go off and have a monster game. I would not expect that. Lou Dort is just so good defensively. This Thunder defense is so good, and they're going to zero in on him, even though he's not 100%. They're going to treat him like he is, and that's because he's the head of the snake, like they often refer to. He's the guy that really initiates so much and gets them going, and so by reducing his impact, you in effect, reduce what the Pacers are able to do. But we have seen in the last couple of games, especially in game 6, one of the adjustments the Pacers did was allow for the other point guards to handle more of the ball responsibilities with Andrew Nembhard, with TJ McConnell, and bringing it up even when Tyrese is out there on the floor. And so I would expect to see more of that here tonight as well, because it was just too effective in game 6, and the other guys can handle it. They absolutely can. And remember, coming into the season with Tyrese, they wanted him to play off the ball a little bit more just to manage his workload, manage his minutes, and allow for him to be out there longer and for more productive bursts. The same thing is going on the other side of Gainbridge Fieldhouse with the Fever and Caitlin Clark. They know that the Fever are best with Caitlin and having the ball, and the Pacers are best when Tyrese is as the facilitator has the ball in his hands. But his usage rate actually went down this season. I believe that was by design in trying to maximize everyone else. Speaking of which, should the Pacers have success tonight, I'll be thinking about a lot of people. But first of all, it would be the people on the court and within the franchise currently. And number one would obviously be Miles Turner. It's year 10 for him. He was in trade rumors realistically for a couple of years, mostly with that potential Boston deal for Gordon Hayward. There was a significant offer made, and Danny Ainge wanted to call the Pacers bluff, and there was no bluff. And in turn, he got caught with a bad deal and had to make something last minute with Charlotte happen because Gordon was headed to the Charlotte Hornets with or without them. For the Pacers, they needed to swing a trade to make it happen. And so Miles was in earnest offered to the Celtics. Outside of that, I think he was probably in a little bit of conversations, but it was not as loud or as noisy as some outside national media would presume to indicate here. Yet at the same time, you cannot underestimate how impactful that had to be negativity-wise, and to play all those years with maybe looking over your shoulder and not feeling well. And then you had those 3 rebuilding years, by the way. And at that point, say in 2022, when you had Rick Carlisle come in, and you're like, he didn't come in to rebuild, but they definitely embarked on a rebuild, finding it necessary after like a 30-point blowout loss at home to the Charlotte Hornets. They said, all right, we got to rebuild. And so they did. Now they're definitely ahead of schedule, and they have advanced that because of a couple of good trades, starting with Tyrese Halliburton, then Pascal Siakam, plus the tinkering throughout, whether it's getting Neesmith, drafting well to get Nembhard with a draft pick you acquired from a trade, going to get Obi Toppin for 2 second-round picks, I believe it is, and that's it. So it's just been great front office management to get this team to where it is. And then I think the coaching staff's done a phenomenal job of setting the tone, providing the mindset, and keeping guys in check. And one of the things they did not have several years ago, I don't think, was accountability. But it is something now this group has talked an awful lot about how they hold each other accountable, how guys don't take it personal, how because they're all in it for the same goal, for the same reasons, and that's to win a championship. Guys don't get offended by any means. And I appreciated what Tyrese Halliburton told Rick Carlisle going into game 6. And it was like, look, I want to play. I understand the risk factors with his right calf strain, but I want to play. And that said, he told Rick, if you see I'm not feeling it, if you can see I'm not playing well and I'm hurting the team, take me out. Take me out. Because as much as he wants to play, he said he wants to win a championship even more, which takes me back to our conversations 2 years ago, before the start of the season, where coming off the World Cup failures to an extent with the Team USA, they didn't win, so it's a failure. We all expect for them to win. And coming off that, he goes, look, I've done just about everything. I want to win. I'm tired of being known as a loser. I want to win. And now look where he is almost 24 months later, on the brink of an NBA championship, on the first of an NBA history. So that would be phenomenal for Tyrese and what he's been able to do. He's a Midwest guy through and through. He's a guy that embraced the underdog mentality, embraces being counted out, and leads by example, I think, on that front. Yes, he leans into storylines as well. He loves WWE more than probably anyone I know, but it feels like actually that's worked to his advantage, because the underdog, can thrive in certain circumstances. And he, along with this team, absolutely have from the very beginning. And so that has been really impressive. They don't care. They don't care what the spread is. They don't care that so many analysts have picked against them. Now, they will use it as fodder. They will use it as motivation. But in the grand scheme of things, they know they have that locker room, and to them, that is all that matters. Couple comments here. About to head to the local watering hole to make sure I get a spot. What a beautiful day to win a championship. Yeah, there you go, man. Granny Danger, I wish you well. Hope you have a great time wherever that is. I will say again, there's a lot more Pacer fans coming to this game. There were not many at Game 5, which you can understand. It was not a closeout game. Pacers had fallen, I think, no, it was even. It was 2-2 in that series ahead of Game 5. But this one in a closeout and the biggest game in franchise NBA history, I think you'll see a lot more Pacer fans than we have seen in the first couple of games. Certainly, at least outside of the Pacers employees that were here. I'm not counting those because that is not expected here. There is executives that are going to be here, as you would expect, right? All the leadership committee with the Indiana Pacers. But how do you choose between employees? And I'd bet it would have been difficult to try to get tickets from OKC because if I'm them, you got to be selfish here in a Game 6 and you give up no tickets to the Pacers. But enjoy that, man. Appreciate you jumping on here ahead of it. Again, the Pacers, Thunder, by now, you know it's Game 7 coming up tonight in Oklahoma City. And much like in Indianapolis, it's a balmy 90-plus degrees here. I will say, walking around for dinner last night, the town was alive more than I have seen it in my previous 2 visits here over the last couple of weeks. You could see an eagerness, an anxiousness, a lot of nervousness headed into this Game 7 because I think the Pacers have earned the respect not only of the Thunder, but of basketball fans across the country and across the world. The cool thing about the NBA Finals is the magnitude in which it is consumed, more than just any regular season game, right? And forget the meaning of ratings, right? The NBA already got their money for the next 11 years. None of us should care about the TV rating and the audience it drew. That's for the executives at Disney and ABC to worry about. For us, it doesn't affect our lives whatsoever. What is cool about the finals, what I was getting at, is I believe it's broadcast in 60 different nations and territories. And so you talk about the Pacers have an incredibly strong fan base in the Philippines and China. Halak Lee from ChinaPacers.com's here, a big Pacers fan who's been following the team, and he's been helping organize some Chinese fan get-togethers, both in Indianapolis, and he's here again here in Oklahoma City, able to enjoy that, which is really cool. And I will even say, being deep in it, deep in this little bubble that is Pacers Thunder, I'm not even sure I completely understand the magnitude of those interested in this series and following along. And for many, it's them getting their first taste of Pacers basketball, for better or worse, right? How many of the national media are we hearing doing the stories we've written 2 or 3 years ago or earlier this year about the team's continuity or about their ability to, while they fall behind early, they come back and are never counted out? Or the TJ McConnell story, which is phenomenal. He's been here 6 years, though, by now. We've seen it the entire time. The first couple of years when he signed up, remember, it was a non-guaranteed contract for that second year. I'll never forget it. He was brought in, had a few offers. That was it. Philadelphia, basically his hometown team, because he's from Pittsburgh, didn't choose to bring him back. And what a mistake that ended up being for the 76ers, who haven't had a good culture, who haven't had much long-term winning success. Forget the process. That was a failure. And losing TJ was a failure. He's a guy every team should want. And now he, like Miles Turner, is in his 10th season. 6 of them in Indy. He wants to retire here. Will want to get into coaching, I think, if his wife will allow him to. He's got a couple of young kids. Obviously, coaching is in his family's blood, even as an official in his family as well. I think it's his uncle. But TJ McConnell's been a phenomenal story. How about Benedict Mathurin after his Game 3 victory? And he's a guy I have several stories I'm working on. And you can just really go on down the line about all these guys with similar stories being counted out, or Nembhard or McConnell being told they're not good enough or they're too short, that they're not going to make it. That's one of the underlying themes, I think, of the Pacers and why they have made it, is because of all this. And so even go back to Obi Toppin, the New York hometown kid being drafted by the Knicks and then kind of fizzling out, then moving on just with a couple second-round draft picks. That's it. And he was the Pacers' best player in a Game 6 elimination game win. widely successful, earning a contract extension. Many people thought the Pacers overpaid. Well, it's been hugely beneficial, certainly, to have him back with them this season. You could also go with Tony Bradley, a player that was added to the team first on a 10-day contract in March out of need. Then he hung around out of need, and he's been getting more playoff contributions than Thomas Bryant, who was added midseason because of need. Just Pacers have hit all the right notes, led by Rick Carlisle, who has been transformative for this Indiana Pacers team going back to when he came back here for his third stint with the team starting in June 2021. That to me is where this whole pivot begins, because then what? I don't know, 4 months into his first year in that January, I want to say, is when they made the collective franchise decision to start anew, to rebuild a little bit. Now, not a complete rebuild. Yes, they did rest players for the final month of that season and such. Miles Turner was hurt, I believe, and maybe another player or two were battling certain things, so they were extra cautious with that. But they embarked on this journey, and in a short time here, in 3 years later, because that was probably January 2022, well, just over 3 years later, the Pacers are at a spot they have never been before, an actual chance to win an NBA title. It's just their second time in the NBA Finals. The last, obviously, was in 2000 when they lost to the Lakers. And back then, they went down 0-2 to start the series out in Los Angeles. They came back, was an incredible Game 3, then lost Game 4 in a dominant fashion, and then lost that series. And so that's why I'm emphasizing how big a moment this is for so many, for the franchise. The first people I think about, even in this moment, but certainly if the Pacers have a successful day and win the championship, would be Nancy and Slick Leonard. Man, I wish Slick could be here. I really do. David Benner, the longtime PR guy for the Pacers. Frank McGrath, longtime photographer for the team, who we lost a couple of years ago. All those individuals were with this team for so long, almost from the beginning of the NBA days, damn near. And it's unfortunate that those individuals cannot be here with us. I'm sure Herb and the Simon family thinking about Mel Simon and how much he did early on. He was more of the basketball guy, as it's been told to me early on. Herb's a business guy. He hires smart people, gets the hell out of the way, and empowers them to do their job. But as it's been told to me, Mel was much more a basketball guy, much more, I don't know if hands-on is the right thing, but more engaged or involved in those basketball activities while he was still alive and co-owning the team with his brother. Now it'd be really cool. Stephen Rails, who came in as a minority owner, now at 20% of the franchise several years ago, and recently elevated that here in the last year to even more stake. He has I think you're going to see a lot more of him within the franchise, which is awesome. You want that new money. You want a fresh perspective and fresh voice, but you have to appreciate the ownership. And especially in a time where we lost Jim Irsay, the Colts owner, prematurely, far too early. I think he was like 65, I want to say. Far too young. This could be for him too, right? He was able to share a championship. I believe he got a championship ring for Herb Simon when the Colts won the Super Bowl back in 2006, I think it was. I got to imagine Herbie will want to repay the favor and give the Irsay family a ring for Jim, even though he passed away about a month ago. That's how small Indianapolis. It's a big city with it's a smaller city with a big connective feel. And that's what we love about our city, right? And so it would be amazing to see this franchise win a championship. And I would just be so happy for those that are involved intimately. I think about the medical staff, which the majority of them, the top ones, have been with the franchise since the early 2000s, since my ball boy days, all the way back, which is awesome. We're like the last remaining ones still around from that time. And so, yeah, Alex says, if Tyrese wins MVP tonight, does he become the face of the NBA? First of all, I'm tired of that discussion. Who cares who the face of the NBA is? And quite frankly, it's going to change several times, because I think it's got to be a dominant person, player, and personality. A guy like LeBron. Now, Steph's certainly up there. Tyrese would not be the face of the NBA. No. Starts with he's not on that superstar level, talking top 5 player in the league. To me, that's generally what a top 5 player is. It's, it could have been Kevin Durant in the past. I don't think so anymore. Unfortunately, now he's being moved once again. But I think he's a guy that is now more well known. I think this Netflix documentary is going to be incredible, both for all of us, but also for fans to get to know him a lot more. And how about so it's produced by Spring Hill Productions, which is LeBron James's company. What's remarkable about it is they lucked into, or maybe strategically got players that made a lot of sense. But man, to have on one side, they've been filming all year with Tyrese Halliburton. And on the other side, they've been filming with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. One of them is going to be the highs of the highs tonight. And one of them is going to come away disappointed and frustrated and annoyed that their team was unable to get it done tonight and win a championship. And we're going to feel and see all those moments behind the scenes. And so, I'm really looking forward to that. In addition to that, just Tyrese's alone, I was telling the producer, that could be its own documentary, right? When you go all the way back to, I don't know how far they started, but Tyrese unable to play in games 3 and 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Not sure if he could play in the Olympics. Then he took part in the Olympics, but got injured again. Then he had that viral clip of him winning a gold medal and getting out in front about how he was unable to contribute to it, but he still passed the test, right? Then, slow into camp and a slow start for the Pacers, starting 10-15 on the season. And Tyrese not looking like himself until a couple months into the year. And I think there's so many things behind the scenes that they can show, including the highs and lows of the team, but even with Tyrese, him moving on from Nike and going to a Puma deal and launching a special shoe there. How about his interactions that he's had throughout the season with Reggie Miller? How about having all the Pacer alums that have been back for the playoffs, but especially in the conference finals and here in the finals. To me, that's been one of the greatest things about this Pacers run to the finals, has been it uniting the fan base, uniting sports fans in Indiana, and best of all, bringing back those favorite Pacers alums and having them celebrate this current team as they're seeing this group get further than any of them outside of the ABA days, guys, that they were able to do. And so that's been a very special thing, I think, to see here. All right, thinking ahead as I wrap up here on this live podcast recording, we're less than 7 hours before tip-off of Game 7 here tonight at Paycom Center, and then we go back to Indianapolis and turn our full attention to either a parade and a celebration, and probably we should celebrate this Pacers season regardless of what happens, because it was one for the record books. And again, that's why I'm so glad Netflix was there to document it for a production. But let's get for tonight's game. I think Siakam needs to give you 25 plus points. I think you need to keep your turnovers down. It doesn't need to be kind of like the 11 like they had in Game 6, but anything above the 15, 16 threshold, I'd be concerned, because the team that has lost the turnover battle has mostly lost this series, or lost the games, as to be expected in any games. You cannot have that 21, 25 type turnovers, because that'll kill you. It will. Same thing goes for OKC, which turned it over an unusually high amount of times, 8 times for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander by himself in Game 6. And that's also a credit to the Pacers defense and what they were able to get accomplished. You're going to need big nights from Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith defensively, but also offensively. And then what bench player in particular will be the guy to pop off and have a showcase game? Was it Obi Toppin again? I think TJ McConnell will be good for his 15 points, 4 assists, 3 steals, like he's been doing typically. I think that's good. Perhaps it's a Benedict Mathurin game, because quite frankly, he's due. Ben is due for a second big game in this series. He celebrated his birthday on Thursday, did not have a good Game 6. And here's the other thing. I'm looking to see what Miles Turner does. The last game of the season, he's been held back. He was one of the players that got the injury bug, or excuse me, the sickness bug that went around the team. And he's only shooting 5 of 25 from 3 in this series. What if he makes 3 3-pointers? What if he is able to knock down that pick and pop like we have seen him do for at least half of his career in Indy? He's been so good at that pick and pop, that top of the arc. Nobody's been better than Miles in the league than Turner at the top of the arc. I think he's due. And I think he's focused and determined to have a monster game tonight. I would love to see them get it going from the very beginning, because when he thrives early on and knocks down that first shot, he's better not only offensively, but especially more focused on the defensive end. It's something we've all noticed along the way. Yeah, you agree. Totally. Big breakout game coming potentially for Miles Turner. Because on the other side, too, Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, neither one of them have really impressed me with what they have done in this series. I think the centers overall have been underwhelming in this series, and the game has been played by the individuals on the perimeter, but they've had the success inside. I know both teams will have some tweaks. I know they're going to shake things up just a little bit. I'll be curious if the Thunder make another tweak to their starting lineup. They've made the lineup changes, whereas the Pacers have leaned on more strategic little things they've done within the flow of the game. They have not changed up their rotation a ton. I did like, I will say, in game 3 where Mathurin did not play in the first, and then he played most of that second quarter. And in doing so, was able to maximize those minutes. He's a guy that really likes to play big bursts rather than playing a lot, but shorter bursts. And so maybe you need to go to Mathurin for 15, 20 minutes per game, and maybe he can give you 20 points off the bench and be one of their standout performers in this one. I don't think a bad start will kill the Pacers, but they can't get down double digits. You don't want to see that in this moment, because I think this could be one of those rare instances where if they did get down, say 15 points in the middle of the second quarter, where they get put away. I know it characteristically, it's been, something that has not been a problem. They can flip the switch, but neither team has shot it well from 3-point range. And if the Thunder on their home court in one of the loudest environments in the NBA, I think the NBA Finals have lived up to its billing, both on the court and from these fan bases, with Gainbridge Fieldhouse and Paycom Center being the two of the loudest venues that we have seen in the playoffs. I give credit to both fan bases. They have been phenomenal. They've been incredibly friendly down here in Oklahoma City as well. But I think that if the Pacers can be within 8 in that first quarter, I think you're all right. Do I think the Pacers will throw out some zone tonight with what OKC did in the second half? I wouldn't judge too much on what OKC did in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter, because in the fourth, it was garbage time. They didn't play any of their starters, talking about the Thunder. The Pacers limited the time for their starters. Neither team has shot it well from 3-point range, as I said. I think the Pacers absolutely have a zone package that they can turn to. Now, is Jenny Busick, the defensive coordinator, along with Jim Boylan, coming into this game wanting to specifically turn to zone at certain circumstances? Maybe. I think that's something they all know they can turn to if need be, or if, this Thunder team's having so much success inside. But I see no reason to change up what got them here. And they have not played a ton of zone in this series, so I would not expect a lot of it here tonight. Maybe just in short bursts, but no need for it at this juncture. I think you get back to what you did in Game 6, which was so impressive. You mark up your mans, you maybe show blitz for SGA and try to boggle him down and make him make quick decisions, bad decisions, turn the ball over, keep him from getting out of the paint, which prevents those easy shots and prevents those easy kickouts as well. And from there, I think the Pacers will again have some success. I think this officiating crew, by the way, is a crew that's not going to call a lot of fouls. It is not a crew that I expect for the game to take an extra hour for there to be 65 combined free throws, and I think that's a good thing. I don't want a longer game, and I don't want to see these guys hit all kinds of free throws. You want to see the game decided in live action, and so I think that is encouraging. Obviously, the Thunder, they're going to need a big game from their big 3 with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, and Lou Dort. Can Alex Caruso bounce back from his 0-point Game 6? That was very odd. 0 for 2, didn't take many shots, turned it over once, did have a block shot. Aaron Wiggins was a guy who's impacted the series with his outside shot. He was just 1 of 4 in Game 6. Somebody there off the bench has to contribute. And again, I'll repeat what I said near the beginning of this. The Thunder bench contributed just 6 points in the 3 meaningful quarters in Game 6. That's not going to get it done. The team that has the better bench production will win this series and thus the championship. And as my parting words here before Game 7, before everything transpires, and then I'll go live with my post-game show. I guarantee it'll be later this year, tonight, because it is a decisive game. There will be an on-court ceremony for whomever wins the championship. And if it is the Pacers especially, I'm going to really want to go and get some color about the game, see different people I can talk to, see about the celebration. So that's going to be my priority post game. So I plan to do a post game show live, win or lose for the Pacers, but I do expect for it to be later. The thing I'll encourage you all is you may never be here again. You just don't know. So you can't take it for granted with Indiana. First time in a quarter century that the franchise is back in the NBA Finals, and the first time in franchise history that they have a chance at an NBA championship realistically. They're just 48 minutes away, just one win away from leaving their part in NBA history, from making their mark in the Pacers franchise history and getting that elusive first championship. So many fans and just don't think this is possible, but it is right here. It is on the cusp. The Pacers have the experience. They have the better coaching staff. They have a mature group that's not going to feel the pressure nearly as much as the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're a group that can thrive on the road when everybody is against them. For those reasons, you should feel optimistic about this Pacers team. Tyrese is doing everything in his power to be as healthy as he can, relatively speaking, and ignore that calf strain and be able to play and leave his heart out there on the floor and give it everything he has for his teammates. And this has just been a special group. And after tonight, we have no more NBA basketball until October. It's going to be a special night, regardless, I think, for this franchise. I look forward to seeing so many Pacer fans, leadership within the franchise, so many that have been intimately involved for so many years. That's the cool thing, I think, about so many at Pacer Sports and Entertainment, that they've been there 15 years, 20 years, 25 years in their role, starring in their role. And this is the first time for many of them to experience a ride quite like this one. We've seen them experience Eastern Conference Finals 3 times over the last 15 years or so. Now they made it again, back-to-back conference finals, and this time things broke their way. They punched the door in, and they are here in the NBA Finals. And again, 48 minutes away for the first championship in NBA history. And that would just be a remarkable feat and lead to so much celebration, understandably so, in the downtown area. You'd love to see it for Herb Simon, the Simon family, the longest tenured owner. It would be a continuation of his banner year. It's been like an incredible 16 months from him professionally, going in the Hall of Fame, hosting the NBA All-Star Weekend for the second time, getting to the NBA Finals. The final thing will probably be coming up in less than 1 month, 3 weeks, is the WNBA All-Star Game coming here for the first time. They obviously drafted Caitlin Clark and have become the epicenter for women's basketball. And basketball is not going away. We'll have Caitlin and the Fever the rest of the way here this summer. But from an NBA standpoint, from the Pacers standpoint, this is it. This is the final game of the regular season. So I hope all of you are able to enjoy it, be with the ones you care about, and enjoy and soak in this moment, because you all deserve it. I hope you all have a great time watching. Make sure to follow along all my coverage here on my YouTube channel, the Fieldhouse Files Pacers podcast, as well at fieldhousefiles.com, where all my work will be delivered right to your inbox if you become a subscriber. Thanks to everyone for joining me here on this sudden playoff Game 7 preview. I was just feeling the vibe. A lot of comments on social media, a lot of excitement in my texts, as well as Pacer fans get ready for Game 7 coming up 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC, the final game of the calendar NBA year here for the Pacers and the Thunder. Thanks again for everybody joining me, and I will talk to you all again very soon tonight after Game 7, win or lose for the Pacers. Have a great one, everyone, and enjoy the moment.